A 165-pound Cane Corso was seized in a police raid and tagged as a fighting dog. He had scars on all four legs and a notch torn out of one ear, and every shelter worker who read his intake sheet saw the word fighting and kept their distance. He sat in a county shelter outside Spokane, Washington for 233 days while 38 families walked past his kennel without slowing down. Then, a 61-year-old widower raising his 6-year-old granddaughter alone signed the papers on the dog nobody would touch. And 9 months later, a doorbell camera on a porch on the north side of Spokane recorded the reason a 165-pound dog would not let a single stranger get within 10 feet of that little girl, and it was the reason she is still home. Walt Brennan was 61 and had not planned on raising a child at this point in his life. His daughter had struggled for years, and when it became clear she could not care for her own child, Walt did what grandfathers quietly do all over the country. He took Ellie in. Ellie was 6, missing a front tooth, and had already learned in her 6 years not to expect people to stay. Walt's wife had died 3 years earlier, and the house he had shared with her for 31 years had gone silent in a way a man does not know how to fix. Now there was a small person in it who needed breakfast and braids and someone at the bus stop, and Walt, a machinist of 40 years who had never once braided anything, was learning on the job. He was not looking for a dog. He was at the county shelter to donate a box of his late life's old towels, and on his way out, he passed the last kennel in the row. A massive brindle Cane Corso sat pressed into the back corner, scarred and still, watching the aisle with an expression Walt saw in his own mirror every morning, the look of somebody who had been left behind and had stopped expecting anyone to come back. I still see you haven't subscribed. Diesel spent 233 days waiting for one person to look past his scars, and in a minute, you'll see how he paid that back. Tap subscribe first. The shelter director, a woman named Corinne, 15 years on the job, did not sugarcoat it. The dog had been pulled from a bad situation. He was tagged as a fighting dog on his paperwork, but she said the truth was worse and better than that. He had never been a fighter. He had been the bait, the dog they used to blood the others, and every scar on him was from being unable to fight back. He had been at the shelter for 233 days. He was not aggressive. He had never growled at a soul. He simply sat in the back of the kennel with his scars and waited for a person who never came. And after 38 people chose easier, prettier dogs, the staff had quietly stopped bringing him to the front. Waltz thought about Ellie. He thought about what everyone would say, a 6-year-old and an 165-pound dog with a fighting tag on his file. Then he crouched at the gate, and Diesel crossed the kennel and lowered his huge head against the bars at the level of Walt's hand and let out a long breath. And Walt, who had buried his wife and lost his daughter to something he could not fix, decided he was done letting the world tell him what was too broken to love. "What's his name?" he asked. Corinne said they had been calling him Diesel. Walt signed the papers. Everyone told him he was out of his mind. His son called from 2 states away and asked if he had really just brought a fighting dog into a house with a 6-year-old. The neighbors watched from behind their blinds. Even the bus driver gave the enormous dog a wide berth. Walt heard all of it and kept going because he had learned the hard way that most people are afraid of the wrong things. Diesel turned out to be the gentlest creature Walt had ever known. He moved through the house with enormous care, as if he understood the child in it was small and the old man in it was tired. Diesel learned Ellie's rhythms in 3 days. Diesel was at her bedroom door before she woke. He lay beside the tub at bath time like a lifeguard, all 165 pounds of him. And within a week, Diesel had appointed himself one job in this world, and that job was Ellie. Diesel walked her to the bus stop every morning, pressed against her leg, and was there every afternoon when the bus came back. And the same neighbors who had watched from behind their blinds began slowly to understand what they were looking at. When anyone he did not know came near Ellie, Diesel did not growl and did not bare his teeth. He simply moved, all 165 pounds of him, between the stranger and the little girl, and stood there, calm and immovable, until the person stepped back or Walt said it was okay. It happened at the park. It happened at the store. It happened on the sidewalk 3 times in 1 week. Diesel had one rule: nobody got to Ellie without going through 165 pounds of him first. Walt put a doorbell camera on the porch, the kind that pings your phone, because he was an older man raising a child alone, and he wanted to see who came to the door when he was in the back of the house. He thought it was for packages. He did not know it was about to be the most important thing he ever bought. If you have ever been protected by something the rest of the world was afraid of, you already know exactly where this is going. The months went by, and the scarred fighting dog became, in that house, simply Ellie's dog. Diesel slept at the foot of her bed bed and carried her backpack to the door every morning like a solemn duty. Once, when Ellie came home crying because a boy had said her mother didn't want her, Diesel climbed halfway onto the couch, put his huge head in her lap, and stayed until she stopped shaking, and Walt watched from the doorway and had to look away. The dog could not fix what was broken in that little girl's story. He could only make sure she was never alone inside it. By spring, Diesel had become part of the neighborhood. The bus driver 20 years on that route kept treats now. The woman across the street, who had crossed to the other sidewalk for months, stopped to say hello. The house that had been silent for 3 years was loud again, full of a child and an enormous dog and the ordinary noise of a life rebuilt. And that doorbell camera on the porch, the one Walt had bought for packages, was about to record the 90 seconds that everything had been leading to. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday in April. Walt had walked Ellie and Diesel to the corner, the way he did every morning, then stepped back inside for a moment to grab his coffee, leaving the two of them on the porch waiting for the bus. He was gone less than 1 minute. What the doorbell camera recorded in that minute is the reason Walt Brennan does not sleep easily even now. A car that did not belong on that street slowed at the curb. A man got out. He was not a neighbor. He walked up toward the porch with the casual speed of a person trying not to look like what he was, crouched a few feet from Ellie, said something to her, held out his hand, and took a step toward the little girl. He never took a second one. Diesel had been lying at Ellie's feet, and 165 pounds of scarred Cane Corso came up off that porch and put himself between the man and the child so fast the camera barely caught it. He did not bite. He did not have to. He stood over Ellie with every muscle in his 165-pound body locked, his head lowered, his scarred shoulders squared, a wall of dog between a stranger's hand and a 6-year-old girl, and he made a sound low in his chest that the microphone picked up from across the yard. The man froze. The man put his hands up and backed away, fast, and then turned and half ran to the car, and the car was gone before Walt got the front door open, coffee still in his hand, his heart already somewhere on the floor. It had taken 90 seconds, start to finish, and Diesel had ended it in the first 4. The police came. They pulled the doorbell footage, and their faces changed as they watched it. The car, they said, matched the description of one reported twice that month near 2 other schools on the north side, a man approaching children, a vehicle with no front plate. And in both of those other cases, the officers said quietly, there had been no dog. They never caught him, but they never had to come back to Walt's street either, because whatever that man had walked up that porch intending to do, he had met 165 pounds of the one thing on earth that would not let him near her, and he did not come back. The same 165-pound Cane Corso that 38 families walked past, the same dog tagged as a fighter and left in a kennel for 233 days. The same dog that had been used as bait, torn up, scarred, and written off as too dangerous to place. He was not a fighting dog. He had spent his whole broken life unable to protect himself, and the first time in his life he was given someone worth protecting, he stood between her and the worst thing in the world and did not move an inch. Corrine heard the story and put it on the shelter's page, and in 2 weeks, the county shelter received 63 applications and 5 dogs that had waited over a year, all of them big, all of them scarred, all of them the kind people walk past, went home that month. Today, Ellie is 9, thriving, and still cannot fall asleep unless Diesel is on the floor beside her bed. Diesel is older now, gray coming into the brindle around his scarred muzzle, slower getting up in the mornings. Walt says he does not know what he would have done in that silent house after his wife, raising a child he had not expected without a dog that everyone told him to be afraid of. And every single morning, a 165-pound Cane Corso still walks a little girl to the corner, still stands between her and every stranger who comes too close, and still waits at that same corner every afternoon for the bus to bring her home. Because as far as Diesel is concerned, that has always been the whole job. We look at a big scarred dog and we read the worst thing that ever happened to him, and we call it who he is,
We tag him as dangerous and we walk past, and we never once ask what he would do with a second chance. Sometimes the dog the whole world was afraid of is the only one standing between your child and the thing you should have been afraid of all along. So tell me, did Walt rescue Diesel, or did the dog nobody wanted spend 233 days waiting for the one child he was put here to protect? Drop your answer in the comments, and if a dog the world gave up on ever stood between your family and harm, say his name below.